140 million miles away from Earth. Mars is our planet's neighbor and greatest mystery. We have gazed at Mars in wonder for centuries. It's been out of reach for us, however. A pioneering spacecraft is now bringing Mars closer to us. It's beaming Mars back to Earth, pixel by pixel. We can now do something amazing with these images. Let us take you on an adventure like no one has ever taken before. From dawn to dusk, a single circuit around the globe. Explore its most amazing and surprising features. We are on a mission to uncover its deepest secrets. We join forces to find the answer to the greatest question. Is there life on Mars? The beginning of our journey is at a black spot that measures 1,000 miles in width. This is the place where humanity's first dream of Mars began. It is called Syrtis Major. This mysterious feature is hidden in the landscape. It was this feature that made us believe that Mars might be Earth's sister. Another planet that is collaborating with life. It is almost unbelievable that 100 years ago people believed there were civilizations on Mars. If there were, how was it? Was commerce possible? Could they speak English? Were they able to communicate with them? Is there any possibility of space travel to allow us to communicate with them? In Flagstaff, Arizona in 1894, an astronomer obsessed with Mars built a state-of-the-art telescope to better study the red planet. Percival Lowell's vision would shock the entire world. He saw patterns, structures, and movement on the surface of Mars. Mars seemed alive. He looked at Mars at every chance he could and kept track of all the things he saw. These are 3 Percival Lowell globes. He has described the different regions of vegetation. He seemed to be able to see the changes in vegetation over time. He has built vast networks of canals to bring water from the melting polar caps down to the dying, drier regions of the planet. This water will supply water for the civilizations he imagined living there. Mars fever was a widespread disease that gripped the planet in the years following Lowell's discovery. We imagined exotic landscapes, bustling cities, and alien oceans. Martians stared back at us even. We didn't have the chance to see if we were correct until 1964. NASA's first successful mission was Mariner 4, which was launched in 2004. Finally, we had the opportunity to Mars up close. There was pressure. This W-60S in the 60s. It was the dawn of the space age. It just sparked our imagination about what else could be possible. Who knows? Mariner 4 was huge because we hadn't seen Mars from the surface. All we knew was that people looked at Mars through telescopes and drew what they saw. People were expecting to see these beautiful civilizations created by Martians. Nervously, the entire world writes the first ever close-up view of Mars. The daughter returned a picture. It didn't show a tropical setting with cities and shining skyscrapers. No canals, no oceans, no rivers. No vegetation, no forests. We didn't find any cities, and we didn't see any Martians. Mariner 4 was a historic bummer. It was amazing to me that the first photos returned showed the area dominated by craters. That was something I've never heard anyone predict. I have never heard anyone in science say, well, when it gets there, it's going to look a lot like that moon. There will be craters. There was never any. We seem to have discovered a dead, deserted Mars despite our hopes of finding a living Mars. Were we so wrong? We can now see the answer. A new electronic eye is seen above the surface of Mars. This is NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. HIRIS, the most powerful camera ever sent to another planet, is aboard. It captures Mars in incredible detail. Heroes are a game changer. The illusion of flying in a helicopter over Mars is possible with the HIRIS camera. It's almost like you can touch the landscape as you look out. Imagine it, 1 pixel. 1 dot in the HIRIS photo is about the same size as a basketball. HIRIS shows us Mars is more than a barren desert. It is revealing a whole new world. It is not only beautiful, but also breathtaking. They look like abstract paintings. You can see the planet come alive, and you feel this vibrancy and this motion. This planet's beautiful color palette is something we have always thought of as a red rock. Once you see everything in detail, it's like, whoa, I have a new prescription for my glasses and suddenly I can see the entire world. Only, it's Mars. We can now show you, using HIRIS data for the first ever time, what Syrtis Major actually looks like. This is the most amazing view any human has ever seen. It is over 100 feet tall and stretches for 100 miles. These are the Nili Terrace and dunes. Percival Lowell thought he saw the beginning of life when he looked at this area. We can now see why Percival Lowell was so wrong about Mars thanks to HIRIS's powerful eye. The Martian wind moves the dunes. Globally, you can see and being blown about Mars' surface. Regions like Syrtis shape change over time. Percival Lowell observed these large, shaded areas that appeared to change and grow over time, perhaps even seasonally. Much like how we see the vegetation change with the seasons on Earth. Lowell was actually watching dust storms and shifting soils on Mars' surface. Lowell wrong. Humanity believed this for years. Now, however, using HIRIS imagery, we can see something quite extraordinary. His vision of Mars may have once been much more. It's a tale that starts at the next destination. It is located 32 miles southwest of Syrtis Major and offers a glimpse into Mars' deepest past. Noah's Terra, Noah's land. This may seem like another barren landscape at first, but it is actually a clue to an entirely different world. This is a world that has a chance of living. This is Mars' oldest place. Noah's Terra is filled with craters. Some are so large that they can be sized as entire states or cities. Some are only 5 to 10 meters in size. Others are very small. It is also possible to see how some craters are brothers printed with other ones. We can easily prove that it is almost 4 billion years old by simply counting and analyzing these craters found in Noah's Terra. These craters can now be built using real data. Each one is the result of a single meteorite strike, which pounded through rocks billions of years ago. These holes are made by the time. These craters can be used to open up the geology of Mars. We can dig through layers and see nearly every type of Mars. These craters can be found 140 million miles away. Although their secrets may seem impossible to grasp, they are incredibly possible to unlock. A rock that is found on Earth. This rock is worth 200 times more than gold. This is a rare and fascinating treasure. There are so many things in the world you can own. It is amazing to read the story about how this Martian rock got on Earth. The clue is in Mars craters, a portrait strike that pierced deep into the planet's crust. Black beauty is formed by the fusion of ancient rocks. It was launched into space travel Adramnal. It traveled the solar system for millions of years before it finally felt the pull of gravity on another planet. The secret to Mars craters may be kept safe on Earth. Juan has a small section on black beauty. From these grains, we can determine the geologic time and history of Mars. We were amazed to see that black beauty produced a lot of water. Martian water was used to soak black beauty. Could water have really flowed in this dry world? Black beauty is only a small but intriguing hint. We had to send probes to Mars to find out how much water was involved in ancient Mars. That's been a difficult task. Something strange shimmers in the Martian dust as we leave No Terra and start the next leg. Mars is a kind of spacecraft graveyard. There's even a thing called the Mars Jinx. Mars has its own plans about whether or not this will go according to plan. It is expensive to search for water on Mars and maybe even life. More than half the 45 Mars missions that were sent failed. In 1960, the Soviet Union became the first country to send missions to Mars. All of them failed. Mars 2, Mars 3, Mars on missions to Mars. Mars on missions to Mars. Mars on missions to Mars. The Cosmos missions and the Phobos missions. Europe tried it, and the Brits tried it. NASA's Mars Climate Orbiter crashed in the atmosphere due to a mixture of imperial and metric units. It takes so much time to make these missions fly from concepts to hardware. You are traveling at 13,000 miles per hour. It takes 7 minutes for you to reach 0 miles per hour and touch the surface gently. It has enough energy and motion to melt or vaporize all of the spacecraft. It doesn't matter if you do it all perfectly. You could still have a terrible day on Mars. Even if your ability to navigate through the atmosphere is good, landing on Mars can be a challenge. Although it can be nerve-wracking, it is so rewarding when it works. Some really work. The most successful mission was the one that reached the surface. A mysterious alien force was responsible. Our next destination will be home to the longest-running Mars rover. The sandy plains of Meridiani Planum, the lifeless shell from NASA's Opportunity rover, is still here. It was expected to last for 90 days. However, it survived 14.25 years to make a breakthrough that changed our understanding of Mars. Its marathon mission was made possible by a mysterious force that creates these patterns in the sand. Opportunity's mission was simply to search for evidence of ancient water on Mars. It had to land in a place where many others have failed. It is difficult to land on Mars. It is very difficult to land on Mars. Engineers devised a bizarre plan to protect the river. Shock absorbers, space style. The ground was safe for Opportunity. It began to use its state-of-the-art camera to capture some of the most detailed images ever taken of the Martian surface. We landed on Mars and saw King Tut's tomb for the first time. This is the story we have been waiting for. Opportunity is looking at the airbags that have deflated and turning our camera back to this small shallow crater. The Opportunity was able to leave the pad and became a real rover. The Opportunity showed us icy clouds dancing across a distant sky. Even the strange setting of our common sun. The discoveries of Opportunity were truly amazing. Everyone wanted more, but time was running out. Opportunity's battery level did drop due to the Martian dust. They would miraculously bounce right back up. The engineers of the rovers were puzzled. Amazing images would reveal the answer. The engineers were baffled by the persistence of NASA's solar-powered rover as the Martian dust settled. They were then presented with some amazing images. In fact, we have a series of eyes time-lapse photos of the plains of Mars. We captured several dust devils moving along. We believe it was something similar that removed the dust from the rover. These dust devils travel across the landscape, spiraling upwards to 12 miles in the sky, leaving behind telltale tracks. These are the mysterious patterns we can see using HIRIs. It is amazing that Opportunity could explore Mars HIRIs for so long because of Martian weather. In July 2018, however, a massive dust storm struck the planet. The sky was so dark you couldn't even see the sun. The rover became too cold, and an accident occurred inside. The rover never came back to us again. It's sad. It's emotional. It was a great gift to have had 14.25 years. Opportunity returned over 200,000 images during its mission. It revealed a Mars that we hadn't seen before and confirmed something remarkable. These layers of amazing rock are clearly visible. Water is always used to lay down sedimentary layers. These are called blueberries. We named them that because they resembled blueberries in muffins when we first saw them. They are made of hematite. They may be referring to a time when Mars was covered in highly acidic water. This is a vein of the mineral gypsum. It contains a lot of calcium as sulfur. It is formed by the evaporation of water. It is a mineral water chemically bound within it. This was the smoking gun. It is here. We found water. The Beauty meteorite found moisture in an ancient Martian stone. Opportunity also revealed Dora Hiri was once water pools on the planet's surface. The next stop on our journey is one of the most fascinating features of the planet. It will show how different Mars was in ancient times. A chasm that is 1,600 miles away from NASA's final resting place for the Opportunity rover is visible from space. Nergal Vallis. The rock contains clues to Mars' past life. It measures approximately 300 miles in length. It is narrower at one end than it is at the other. These long channels look like a tree and are connected to one trunk. These patterns seem to appear to come from nowhere. They get deeper and more complex as they go. They connect. We are planetary geologists, and we study the surface of the planet. As detectives, we try to unravel the history of a planet. It's how it got to where it is today. This dramatic change can only be made by one substance. Water can have a tremendous effect. It slowly dissolves various components of the rock. Geomorphically, it can do a lot of work. Water creates rocks at incredible speed. It can even shift entire landscapes. These beautiful canyons are made by rivers. Nergal Vallis revealed that ancient Mars was filled with water. This is not a trickle. Full rivers are what we mean. Flushing water, full to the banks. There were oceans. There were clouds in heaven. Rainstorms were common. Floods were common across the entire surface. Talk about huge amounts of water and the whole cycle of water. Precipitation, perhaps snowfall at the summits of mountains. It would have required a torrent to cut Nergal Vallis from the landscape. A river that is one health size than the Nile. 4.800 cubic meters of water per second. Percival Lowell may not have been so wrong after all. Even though he may have been off by 4 trillion years. It seems that Mars is an intriguing planet. But if Mars looked like this once, where did all of the water go? A pair of spectacular features, 800 miles west from Nergal Vallis, are the most impressive on the planet. They were instrumental in solving the mystery of Mars' water shortage. The first is a huge cut that runs a fifth around the entire planet. Valles Marineris. It is approximately the same size as the United States of America. It would stretch from Los Angeles to New York City. It's 6 miles deep. It measures 150 miles in width. You couldn't see the other side if you were standing on one end. The planet would curve away from your eyes. This thing is just too big to comprehend. It is the longest canyon in all of the solar systems. It's the Big Daddy. Olympus Mons is just beyond the horizon. It is the highest mountain in our solar system. It's difficult not to go there. Right, it's quite cool. It literally rises out of the atmosphere. It was nearly twice as tall as Mount Eb's Everest. It rose by nearly 90,000 feet above its base. Because Mars' gravity is only 1/3 that of Earth, it has less gravitational pressure. This is why Olympus Mons is so large compared to other planets. You can see Olympus Mons bum from the side if you fly past Mars. It is enormous. Olympus Mons as well as Valles Marineris both represent a huge chapter in Mars's history. They tell the story of Mars' past, its fate. Mars was just a baby when its interior was ravaged by rage volcanoes that ejected an astonishing billion tons worth of molten rock. The lava created a huge plateau stretching over 3,000 miles. The surrounding crust was put under enormous stress by the massive mass of this rock, literally tearing apart the planet. Valles Marineris was created. The violence of the Mars led to create. All kinds of gases were released by volcanoes that erupted on Mars in ancient times, which made up the Martian atmosphere sulfur dioxide, methane, water vapor. This creates a thicker atmosphere. Once you have a thicker atmosphere, water can exist on a surface. Water must be kept liquid by the atmosphere. Water will turn from a liquid vapor into a liquid vapor if it is not. Running water on a surface requires sufficient atmospheric pressure. However, Mars' atmosphere didn't last. The story of how Mars' atmosphere vanished is a warning to Earth. A force field protects our planet. It extends outwards to 40,000 miles. It's created at Earth's core. It is quite frightening when you stop to think about it. The iron ball that is encapsulated in our skin is essentially molten. This iron ball is moving at a slightly slower rate than the rest. It is kind of moving around in there. This creates a magnetic field. This magnetic field extends out to space thousands of times. Aurora is more than just a beautiful light show in the night sky. The magnetic field of the Earth is directly visible to you. This magnetic field is visible in the form of the moon. The sun's charged particles travel at supersonic speeds through the solar system, impacting Earth's atmosphere. Without the magnetic field to divert them around Earth, the atmosphere would slowly degrade over time. You know that the atmosphere is a thin, blue line. It is barely big enough to see. Everything that exists on Earth depends on this thin blue line. This makes it clear how fragile our existence really is. An aurora danced across the Martian skies in the deep past. Mars lost its force field, but it couldn't keep it. A turbo chain reaction took place 4 billion years ago. Like Earth, the magnetic shield of Mars ancient allowed water to exist on its surface. It didn't last. You lose heat faster the smaller you are. It's just simple physics. Imagine if you took an of potatoes out from the oven. The tiny, mini potatoes will cool down very quickly. The large ones will take longer. Mars, beneath the size of Earth's, lost its heat much faster than Earth. The planet's interior begins to slow down as it cools. Mars began to die from within. The protective force field started to fail. The atmosphere is destroyed by solar winds. Volcanoes fell silent. The skies were no longer refilled with gases. The water on the planet evaporated into space, killing Mars. Only 2 spots on Mars' surface are still where water is possible today. These are the next stops in our journey. These are some of the most beautiful and strange landscapes on Earth. Its poles. Each of the 2 polar caps on Mars has its own unique personality. The Mars North Pole looks like a beautiful hockey puck made of ice, roughly the same size as Greenland. It measures 600 miles in width and is 1.2 miles deep. These dune fields are found in the northern polar cap of Mars. These striking cliffs run along the exterior. Even avalanches are being worked on. The landscapes at the other end are even more stunning. The south polar cap measures more than 2 miles thick. This is a lot of ice. These swirling patterns of whites, oranges, and reds are created by the polar cap. It reminds me a lot of orange sherbets and creamsicle. These bizarre patterns are called kaleidoscopic. The holes are areas where some of the landscape is gone. It's also formed into rings in other places. It's almost impossible to describe. It is Enceladamesque, but not terrestrial. This must have been created by a volatile force. It can't be water. It is so cold that the water freezes in this area forever. It's concrete. What is it exactly? It is located at the edge of the ice cap. Hieres has revealed the answer. These are stardust stars that radiate from the center. We call them spiders for obvious reasons. It turns out Mars has seasons, just like Earth. The temperature drops as winter draws near in the southern hemisphere. Things like snow and frost are common. There's a difference. This isn't water snow. This is snow made from carbon dioxide or dry ice. It is alien. It's not something we see on Earth. Winter temperatures rarely rise above -190 degrees Fahrenheit for the entire duration. The thick layer of dry ice covers the entire polar region, including the water ice cap and surrounding plains. Things get a lot more interesting as spring approaches. The sun's return causes the dry ice to melt. It doesn't turn into a liquid. It turns into gas straight away. You build up pressure by making more gas and trapping it in the ice layer. So you build up and continue building pressure until it explodes. These dark streaks can be seen on Hera's images as a result of the explosion. Each of these bizarre spider formations was formed by the exploding jets of carbon dioxide. It took them 10,000 years to create. It's the same force, carbon dioxide, that transforms from gas to dry ice to gas, that creates Mars' bizarre poles. Both are completely different landscapes. It's the quintessential Mars. It's an alien Mars. Exploding poles, frozen plains that have been scarred, a planet without an atmosphere, blasted by the sun. It might seem impossible that Mars could support life. We now know that the two planets shared a lot more similarities than we thought. If life did exist on this planet, why not here? We head towards the Marian Equator as afternoon turns to evening. We are heading to the Marian Equator, where NASA has been conducting an ambitious mission since 2012. A high-tech rover, currently searching Gale Crater for essential ingredients of life, is here. Gale Crater was flooded with water 3.5 billion years ago. It's now a dried-up lake bed. It hides clues about how habitable Mars may have been once. A 1-ton mobile science laboratory is built on its surface. NASA's Curiosity is the only rover currently on Mars. Curiosity is an amazing rover. It's a large, SUV-sized, laser beam eye robot, which is currently traveling around Mars to determine if there is a place that can sustain life. It sounds almost like science fiction when I describe it this way. Curiosity is an enormous rover. The 6-wheel drive is 7 feet high. Her quantum energy source is plutonium, which powers her. She can run for many years. Dust storms that kill rovers don't affect Curiosity. Curiosity is so large that Iris can show it in detail. We can see the body and the wheels. The tracks can also be seen. Curiosity also has 17 cameras. It can even take selfies. These rovers were designed to look like human Mars surrogates. They can see up to 6 feet above the ground with their eyes and take color photos that reflect the same wavelengths of our human eyes. This is all to create a virtual human presence on Mars. NASA rebuilt Gale Crater using 500,000 images from Mars orbiters and Curiosity. You are able to lose yourself in the virtual world as you absorb the images and topography. It is so fascinating to use data to take you to another place, to another planet. This isn't just for entertainment. Curiosity goes beyond a simple mobile camera. Dawn use is the virtual environment. To select the best places for Curiosity's high-tech toolkit, Curiosity, which we have landed on Mars' surface, is a chemical laboratory. Our laser ablation spectrometer is used to destroy rocks. This allows us to find out what Mars is made from. Curiosity will heat the powder, then smell the chemicals. The chemicals will tell us something about the sample. Although it doesn't give us all the answers we need, it does provide some clues. Curiosity made the most significant breakthrough in 2014's search for extraterrestrial life. We found organic molecules in mudstones. Complex molecules that contain carbon are called organic molecules. They are the components of all life on Earth. These molecules are clues. Although we don't know where they came, they are clues. We know for certain that Mars is a habitable planet, and that we did not know this before Curiosity arrived there. Water on the surface and organic molecules in rocks. Mars was home to all the necessary elements for life to begin. But it is still impossible to prove that this has been true for more than 1 billion years. We have yet to find evidence that life has ever taken root on Mars, or made use of the great conditions Mars offered. We are so determined to find life on another planet that we have already overreached. NASA stunned the world in 1996. They discovered bacteria-shaped structures in a meteorite found in Antarctica. Although the evidence is only microscopic, and may not be millions of years old, but they showed it today. This rock has rolled back many years of discoveries and made science fiction possible. The world was wondering if there was really life on Mars. The dream began to crumble. People began to question and then to doubt. It was difficult to prove that the morphology of the shapes we saw was made by life. This isn't as obvious as digging up a skull of a dinosaur. This microbe is billions of years old. This is a mystery. The most bizarre thing about this puzzle was the small size of the rocks. They were smaller than any living organisms ever recorded, and smaller than anything that could possibly exist, or so we thought. One scientist's research is forcing us to rethink our search for life on Mars. This is Ethiopia, one of the most hostile countries on Earth. The conditions here are very similar to the ones on Mars. The air is heavy smelling. The temperature of the water that comes out of chimneys can reach over 100 degrees Celsius. It's almost saturated with salt, and it has a high salinity. Water pH is acidic, more so than a car battery. This environment was very similar in early Mars. Philippe discovered something unexpected in these samples: the bacteria. These bacteria were discovered in Dalil in the pools at Dalil, interacting with salt and living in it. This is how they multiply and colonize this extreme environment. You are implying that these organisms are alive. These aren't fossils of bacteria. They are bacteria and they live. They are constantly growing. These are the very things that make our environment so dangerous. It is perfect for primitive life forms to start. They can take the energy and power supply from the minerals. The breakthrough is not just the existence of bacteria, but also their size. They are 20 times smaller than regular bacteria. It's nanobacteria. These bacteria are approximately the same size and shape as the Antarctic meteorite. This extreme environment is similar to what Mars was 4 billion years ago. If there is life here, it's possible that similar life could exist on Mars. We have rekindled our hope of finding life on Mars after the discovery of extreme life forms on Earth. NASA's next mission will dig for alien fossils. The search area is located 2,400 miles west from Gale Crater. This mission will be Mars 2020 NASA's most difficult yet. Jezero Crater has jagged channels cut through the rock. It is a rugged and cracked landscape. Scientists have discovered that this is the fossilized remnants of a huge river delta. Over time, sediment builds up layer by layer. These layers of mud would have contained any organic molecules or life forms. It's a story layered in the rock record. It's buried treasure that is set there for billions of years, waiting for us to find it and discover what it is. The most difficult place to hunt for life is the best, and NASA will try to accomplish that in February 2021. If it were up to engineers, we would choose a flat area with no rocks or winds. Scientists would instantly say that this is boring. This mission is a huge deal. This is the most ambitious mission we have ever attempted. 2020 will see us take the rover to places that are unimaginable for Curiosity and the airbag landings. This landing site will be a B-rover killer. Unlike previous missions, NASA has a new trick in its arsenal. Each mission to Mars has encountered one problem. It takes around 20 minutes for a signal to be sent back to Earth. Engineers can't control the spacecraft from their control rooms. Mars 2020 will be able to do this with a superpower. It will be capable of navigating itself. We took the Curiosity landing system and added an important feature: the ability to find Mars. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory has harnessed HERES to power this mission. The images were used to create a detailed map of the landing area. HERES has been used to help us understand potential dangers in the terrain. Mars 2020 will then compare the map to what it sees on ground. It will then zero in on its target. Retro rockets will safely guide the $2.5 billion rover to the surface. Mars 2020 will begin its simple but amazing task of exploring the planet's surface in search for fossils that could be evidence of Martian life. Was there life on Mars' surface? This is the most fundamental question you can ask. It's impossible to imagine Mars without being alive in some way. We are creating the foundation for the next great challenge, sending humans to Mars as robot pioneers. Engineers are working feverishly to create the technology. Do you want a future in which we can travel to the stars and live among them, or one that keeps us confined to our planet? Space exploration is a difficult but possible task. We are already familiar with the first human to set foot on Mars. This mission will be more successful than any other we have attempted. There are two major obstacles. The first is to get there. There are many challenges in getting humans to Mars stammers, but not just on Mars. Navigation is difficult. If you go too far, you'll burn yourself. It takes 7 months to reach Mars. You must remain on Mars for at least 2 years before you can return to Earth. It's likely that you will experience a form of cabin fever like no other. You must survive in terrible conditions once you arrive on the planet. You will need to survive in extreme temperatures, toxic dust, and unbeatable air. Unseen danger that spacesuits are unable to protect against. Radiation can cause cancer. This seems impossible. The planet offers a solution. We return to Syrtis Major 350 miles west from Jezero crater where Mars 2020 will search for alien life. Here, at the beginning of our journey, we discover the key to Mars living. We come across these strange, snake-like forms every once in a while. This is an extremely flat terrain, which is highly cratered. These features could be lava tubes, we are certain. As lava flows out of fractures, lava tubes can form close to volcanoes. The lava eventually drains away and leaves behind these caverns. Sometimes we can see holes through these features. These are dark holes that you see when you look down. The radiation problem has been a mystery to humankind. These underground marvels could be our salvation. A team of scientists are exploring Mars' deadly environment deep in the mountains of northern Spain. I believe that what they will do on Mars is amazing. It isn't easy. Our biology has become accustomed to the Earth where we evolved. Even if you were to live on Mars for a longer period of time, the radiation could be fatal. It is necessary to go underground. The more we dig, the better our radiation protection. These caves can be quite long. These caves could stretch for several kilometers, which would allow us to dig deeper and build a home for our species. The team can explore this subterranean world in its own version, a Martian lava tube. Because you don't have any days or nights, it is difficult to keep track of the time. It's very difficult to function in such a restricted environment. Not only do we need to be psychologically independent, but also in terms of food, material, and energy independence. This would be our home planet Mars, and we must create the right environment to allow us to thrive and survive. The first pioneers will find shelter in the lava tubes. Experts believe that they could be used as sites for long-term settlements. They may be large enough for whole cities to fit inside. We are somewhere in between the last human single-planetary generation and our first multi-planetary generation. We will not only change history, but also the future if we colonize Mars. It may be that in these lava tubes, the long-running quest to find Mars will finally come to an end. These same conditions could have kept us underground for billions of years, but they might have also kept Martian life safe. Any life forms found today will be destroyed by the radiation that is bathing the surface. This is a new area to explore on Mars. It's also one of those places that could provide a good home for any Martian life. Our time on Mars is drawing to a close. The sun is setting above the Syrtis Major dunes. This place once inspired us to dream of an Earth-like world. But our journey has shown Mars' story to be even more amazing than we could have ever imagined. It's now within reach. It's amazing. It is amazing. I used to fantasize about being the first to climb Olympus Mons, the highest mountain in the solar system, and to plant the flag there. Mars forces us to rethink who we are and how our connection to the universe is. Would you go? Yes, I would.